Chip Keating, candidate for governor, joining us here on Oklahoma Chronicle this week. Thanks so much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Evan.
I always mention it to all the candidates I have through here. It's a crowded field. It's a big field. What do you think separates you from the pack?
Well, I think that's a pretty simple question. I've never held public office. I'm running against a lot of folks that have, frankly, been in a position to serve and make a difference and fix the challenges facing our great state. And, you know, as I travel the state, I ask that simple question of voters and the constituents, because they're ultimately the best endorser in this primary, is if any of the folks I'm running against, we're going to have fixed the problems, why haven't they done it already?
Right. In fact, on your campaign website, I was checking that out just before we were talking, you talk about running to take on threats facing Oklahoma families. And when I read that, my question is, what are the biggest threats, in your opinion, that Oklahoma families are facing?
Well, 1 in 4 of our 8th graders can't read. We're 50th in literacy. We're number 1 per capita incarcerated. We're at the lowest of the totem pole in healthcare outcomes. How do we break systemic poverty long term? Let's get serious around literacy. We haven't modernized our tax code in 100 years. And then the biggest one, self-induced, we passed medical marijuana and we have anything but that. We have an illicit drug crisis going on in our state. And I'm, again, running against folks that have been around to do something about these threats. And here we are. It's time to do something about it in a big way.
You know, I had Gittner Drummond on this program last week, and he brought up medical marijuana, and he says that under his watch, under AG, I mean, he's made a lot of busts. He shut a lot of those down. Do you think that the problem is as large now as it was a few years ago?
Well, there's no question. So there's 1,400 grows in the state today. 1,200 are illegal. Oklahoma produced 77 million pounds of marijuana last year. We accounted for 2 million pounds. 75 million pounds of black market marijuana came out of Oklahoma. That's 60% of the black market marijuana industry came out of our state for the whole U.S. And so behind the illegal grows, behind door number 2 is methamphetamine production, fentanyl production, human trafficking, sex trafficking, money laundering. It's a criminal network that's a complete dumpster fire. And why do we have 1,200 illegal grows? They're not being shut down fast enough, and that's exactly what I'm going to tackle immediately and get rid of them, cut the head off the snake.
You do have a background in law enforcement. You actually have a really interesting, diverse resume, because you have a lot of background in oil and gas industry. You've done some other business things as well. How do you think of yourself and your background, and how do you want voters to think of you?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not a career politician. I'm a husband and a father. Most importantly, I've got 3 young kids at home, married to my best friend, Brittany, for the last 20 years. But I am a law and order candidate. The first order of any civilized society is keep our people safe. I spent almost 4 years as an Oklahoma State trooper. I'm the only candidate in this race that's actually taken an oath to protect and serve and been issued a badge and a gun. And I wear that with pride, and I'm very proud of my past. I think a lot of our first responders, I'm a first responder, law enforcement candidate first, but I've also been blessed and run my own businesses for the last 17 years in the oil and gas and real estate industry. So I've signed payrolls. I know what it's like to be a small business owner and the risks that come with that. And I love Oklahoma, and I've been very involved serving, whether it be civically or philanthropically around the state. And I believe public service is just that. Serve for a period, go fix the problems you're running on, and go back to the private sector. And I think we've gotten away from that. And I think politics has become more of an industry for people. It's time to turn the chapter in Oklahoma. We've got a lot of big problems facing our state. We should be a rich state, not a poor state.
You were a teenager when your father was elected governor. You and I are around the same age. You know, a lot of kids, when they grow up in the, you know, as a child of a politician, they run in the opposite direction. And you did, it seems, for a long time. He was still governor when you became a state trooper, correct?
That's correct.
And now you were coming back to politics to try to run for the same office that your dad, Frank Keating, held. Yep. Why?
You're 100% right. It's not always the shiny objects. It's a lot of work. Certainly campaigning is a lot of work, getting home late at night, out the door.
You saw it firsthand from your dad.
Firsthand. I did. Firsthand. Because I love our state. Our state, if it were in tip-top shape and perfect, I would stay in the private sector and stay at my office and run my businesses. But that trooper servant heart, kind of once a Marine, always a Marine, that mentality, once a trooper, always a trooper, selfless service. And I believe Oklahoma's at a crossroads right now, and we need a selfless servant that's going to step up, not crater to special interest, do what we know needs to be done in our state to get this place headed in the right direction. Because how do you really quantify changing the pace of our state for the next 100 years, positioning our state for the next 100 years? Common sense. Other states are figuring this out. Oklahoma is lagging. Common sense. Why are we still talking about how education's broken? As I look at politics the last 20 years, this seems to be a political theme every cycle. And to me, those are empty-suited rhetorics of politicians telling you what you want to hear during an election cycle. And we elect them, and here we are still in the ditch in education.
So you brought up education a couple of times. So what's something that you would do or push for? Obviously, you don't make laws yourself, but you could support things. What's something that you would push for right away? Because the legislature, to their credit, they are trying. They did just put forward a big investment this year. What more can be done?
Well, I think it's very important for voters as they assess who they're going to be voting for coming up in June. They just put forward a literacy initiative in the legislature that we abandoned in 2014.
Right.
So we hear the Mississippi Miracle. The Mississippi Miracle was written on the heels of what Oklahoma did back in 2012 and abandoned in 14.
And Mississippi stuck to it.
They stuck to it, and their outcomes from 50th to 15th in 12 years. So it is critical that we have the right leadership, that we do not make the same mistake. 2 years from now, when that third grade gate kicks in, we've seen what special interests will do once in Oklahoma. Make no mistake, they're going to come back and try to get us a bail again. We can't afford to bail again.
Economy, we're in an interesting spot right now because in a lot of ways the economy is doing well in Oklahoma. And then in other ways, we have some real challenges, especially when it comes to the state budget. And from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, it's not going to get any easier budget-wise, that the budget is only going to get tighter. And at the same time, politicians are talking about continuing to drop taxes on Oklahomans, which I know is very appealing in some ways. But how do we still make sure that we are able to pay for the things that we need to?
Yeah, there's no question. So if we look to the top 10 really good public policy states right now, my pledge on the campaign trails, I travel all over the state. We don't need to do science experiments. We hear Mississippi. What you also won't hear about in Mississippi, their per capita GDP just surpassed the UK. So how did that happen? They fixed public education, they stuck with it, but they also, over a 6-year period, phased out their state income tax. That is critical. If you look at the high growth states, whether it be Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, South Dakota, Nevada, Arkansas, what do those states have in common? Income tax. Don't tax work. Tax spending. We've got to modernize our tax structure. We've got a very bureaucratic state. Oklahoma has over 380 state agencies, boards, and commissions. I tell people traveling, Arkansas, 10 years ago, we used to say, well, at least we're not Arkansas. At least we're not Mississippi. At least we're not this state, treading water. We are now below those states. What have those states done? They woke up, they've adopted sound, responsible, good public policy like other states have done. Arkansas had 250 state agencies 8 years ago. They have 15 today. We've got to streamline Oklahoma's government, cut the bureaucracy out. Taxes are always going to be a big issue. The budget's going to be a big issue. Right. We've got to look for alternative ways to grow our economy in Oklahoma and not just run the same playbook. I mean, we saw what happened to Devon and Chesapeake. I cut my teeth in my younger business sector days during the growth years of Chesapeake. So what has happened year over year over year over year? Bad policies have led to the demise of the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma and companies moving to Texas. We should take note of the letter the Petroleum Alliance sent to the legislature on the heels of Devon and Chesapeake leaving. There was a quote from an anonymous oil and gas executive in Houston, said the Houston skyline has been built on the years of bad public policy coming out of Oklahoma and Louisiana. So what are those bad public policies? It's never too late to reverse course, but a lot of this has been self-inflicted. And I think we need a leader that's going to set a mandate and a vision for Oklahoma, lead the legislature, embrace the legislature. Don't care who gets credit. You shouldn't care who gets credit or care who gets credit when frankly good ideas. Set bold vision, bold policy, bold mandate. Lead the legislature and let's go execute for Oklahomans.
Chip Keating, that's all the time we got, but I appreciate you coming in here. I wish you the best of luck. He's running for governor on the GOP ticket, and we wish you the best.
Evan, thank you, sir.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.